So my name's Justin. I work as a unified communication specialist. At its simplest, my role is about making sure people can talk to each other, whether that's over the phone, conference systems, or digital platforms. That might sound straightforward, but what I love about it is how critical it is to everything a business has done. Communication is the backbone of collaboration, and when I do my job well, people connect seamlessly without even thinking about the technology behind it. What excites me most is that I get to solve problems that directly impact people's day to day work. For example, if a call isn't routing correctly or someone's soft phone isn't working, it's not just an IT issue, it's preventing that person from doing their job. So when I step in and I fix that issue, they can get back on track, and that feels meaningful. I know I've made a real difference when that happens, and even if it's something small. I enjoy the variety of my job. One day I might be configuring a new VoIP development or deployment, and the next day I'm tweaking the ticketing system to make workflows a little bit more efficient. And maybe the next day I'm just troubleshooting hardware and software. It just keeps me on my toes, and I never feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, which is good for me. And most importantly, I love that my work sits right at the intersection of technology and people. The technical side is absolutely rewarding, but what I really value is removing barriers for my colleagues and making their jobs communication a lot smoother. So again, the sense of helping people succeed is what really drives me every day. Move forward. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be number four or not, but I'm going to answer number four as well. Have some time here. So, what do you think is the most important quality for someone in IT service and support to have, and how do you embody that quality? I believe the most important quality in IT service and support is patience. Technical skills are critical, of course, but really defines success in this field is how you handle people who may be stressed, frustrated, or completely out of their depth with technology. Patience allows you to slow down, listen carefully, and make the person feel heard and respected. I embody patience in my role by remembering that for the user, the problem their experience is very urgent, disruptive. It may be a quick, easy fix for us on our side. Maybe the phone's not registering, for instance, but for them, it could be the biggest problem in their workday. And so taking the time to walk them through that and what's happening in the simplest terms really reassures them and helps us resolve the issue less stressfully. Patience comes into play when troubleshooting. Technology doesn't always give you the right answer right away. I've learned that staying calm and methodical not only gets you better results, but also models the right approach for my colleagues. When others see you handling the challenges with composure, it creates a much calmer environment. And then finally, patience is what builds trust in the team. Users and within the company. Users remember how you treated them, not just whether you fixed their issue, but by consistently showing that I'm willing to listen and take the time that's needed. I built pretty good, strong relationships throughout the company. And that in turn makes future interactions much easier because people know they can rely on me and they know me. Well, for me, innovation and continuous improvement don't always mean introducing brand new technologies. More often, it's about looking at the systems and processes that we already use and asking, how can this be simpler, faster, maybe more reliable for the people who depend on it, right? My mindset's to always go one step beyond solving the immediate problem. I try to identify what's the root cause or the bottleneck that's creating that problem so it doesn't resurface again. A good example of this is our ticketing system. At one point, a lot of requests were coming through quite delayed because tickets weren't reaching the right people in a quick enough time. Instead of just manually reassigning these tickets when that happens, I took the time to map out our workflows and worked on automating that routing process. So now tickets are categorized, assigned automatically based on their request type. That change reduced delays essentially and improves the response time to our customers and gives us a much better experience overall. So they don't have to chase us around for updates. On the unified communication side, I've also applied the same thinking to our our deployments. Early on, each new setup took longer than it probably should have. There's quite a few errors that would occasionally slip through. And so we created a standard template for common call flows, voicemail setups, and configurations. This meant that we could deploy much faster and with much more consistency. Not only does it save us quite a bit of time and my colleagues' time, but it gives the end user a smoother onboarding experience because everything's working properly from the beginning. Standardization is pretty key when it comes to that. So my approach is simply listen to the pain points, look for patterns and how I can eliminate those extra steps. And continuous improvement is really about removing the friction. And when you do that, both the business and people benefit. Thanks. To me, leadership is about taking ownership, setting an example and helping others succeed. And that doesn't matter if you have a formal title or not. It's about being reliable and accountable and creating an environment where people feel supported and informed. Leadership's less about authority and more about your responsibility and influence on the team. So in my role, I've demonstrated leadership by being the person others can count on for unified communications. When colleagues run into issues, they know that I'll not only fix the problem, but also explain why that happened so they can understand it themselves. I think that's an important part of leadership, empowering others so that they can grow rather than keeping all that knowledge for yourself. Another way I've shown leadership is through the documentation and process building. So I make a point of writing clear step-by-step guides for the systems that I manage. That way, if I'm not around, my teammates can still handle those requests confidently. It reduces bottlenecks in the team and shows that leadership is about making the team stronger, not just being that go-to person. I see leadership in the small daily interactions as well, just being patient with users, supporting colleagues when they're overwhelmed, or stepping in to troubleshoot something outside of my usual scope if it helps the team. I try to lead by example in those moments, showing consistency and professionalism. My advice would be just never stop learning. Don't underestimate the importance of communication. IT is a field that's evolving constantly. So the tools that maybe I started off with even a couple of years ago may be completely different a couple of years down the line. We've already seen some major changes within the company from the stuff that I initially started with, right? If you want to succeed, you need to stay curious, adaptable, willing to learn these new systems. And whether that's through getting some additional certifications, hands on projects, or just asking the questions to the right colleagues. What's equally important and also overlooked quite often is how you interact with people. I've said this a few times that communication is absolutely key in our field. So at the end of the day, IT support, it's not just about fixing the technology and the problems people are having with the technology. It's about helping people who are relying on the technology do their jobs. If you can combine solid technical skills with an empathetic, clear explanations, with a patient attitude, you'll stand out immediately. For example, early in my career, I realized that solving a problem quickly wasn't always the full solution. If the user didn't understand what went wrong or they felt like they were dismissed and they walked away with frustration, even though the issue was technically fixed, it can create negative feedback in the team. So I made it a habit to slow down and explain things in plain language, less acronyms, and check that the person felt confident before wrapping things up. It's a small shift, but it really does build trust. And over time, it made people that I work with much more comfortable and confident reaching out to me. So my advice is pretty simple. You want to invest in your knowledge, but you also want to invest in your communication tools and skills. Technology will always change, but being able to communicate and connect with people and make them feel heard and supported will always set you apart in the field. So that's my recommendations.